to the turn number 3. That is that left-hander at the top of the hill. Again, drivers settling back in. They'll work their way down now the long straightaway. Once they get out of 3, 4, and 5, it is a big run down this back straightaway. A bit of a chicane that we're calling turn number 6. You'll watch these drivers work through this chicane area. A little bit of a blip, I think, coming into the corner, but rolling back on the throttle. You can see them work through there, and then kind of a double apex right-hander turn number 7. We have one driver drop the wheel further back. Looks like that driver's been able to continue. A little slow coming out of the turn number 6 area, but getting things spooled back up again. So the drone picking up our coverage here from Ozarks International Raceway, the opening couple of corners of this year's USF Juniors program, the inaugural series of this new program, the development feeder series for USF 2000. Leader coming through for the first time, there's Matt Clark, and he's developed a pretty good lead. You can see him coming down the hill there in that compression. Great shot here of the elevation change at this particular racetrack. A lot of blind corners, a number of off-camber corners as well. And again, I didn't think about it when he was quick early, but obviously Matt Clark has been so impressive running at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park in his development years, running F1600, and has played very well for him at a track that is probably very similar to what he's used to. Clark, your initial leader, coming out of the gate, taking full advantage of the pole position he was able to lay down. Was a full second faster than Sam Corey, as qualifying, again, as we said, underway earlier today. With the threat of rain tomorrow, those of you tuning in here on either the USF Juniors app or one of the websites, so 2 races today. We're back at it again at 4:15 this afternoon. And, of course, 1 race at 11:45 tomorrow morning to cap off the triple header here at Ozarks. These drivers turning right around and heading to Barber Motorsports Park. They're racing on Thursday and Friday to kick things off for that awesome event at Barber for the NTT IndyCar Series. A full brace of Road to Indy presented by Cooper Tires series there as well. USF 2000, Indy Pro 2000, and of course Indy Lights as well. So Matt Clark, the initial leader, as they work on their way back down here again into turn number 1. We'll give you a full field rundown as they work through here. Field has separated fairly nicely at this point here in terms of drivers settling into positions. We'll find out what kind of battles we have. There's a couple of VRD drivers going out a little bit further back. There's a big gaggle of cars there. A couple of drivers looking up the inside. Throughout the weekend, Gabby Chavez, our driver coach, has been working very closely with the drivers and going over their data and finding out, especially those who maybe made a mistake here or there, find out what it was, try to correct it. This is obviously a development program, a teaching program to get these drivers ready to go for USF 2000. So here you go, Matt Clark coming across the line as the leader, gap of 2.1 seconds on the opening circuit. Sam Corey ended up sliding into second. Good job for him from the outside of the front row. Andre Castro up into third, Nikita Johnson fourth, Jake Bonilla, who started third, slotting back into P5. So we're following a good battle of 3 drivers there. Jeremy Fairburn up into the 6th spot, Alessandro DiTullio in 7th, Titus Sherlock in 8th, Alan Isambard 9th, Earl Tucker in 10th, Noah Ping 11th, Elliot Cox in 12th, Jacob Bolin 13th, Bianca Bustamante in 14th, and Ethan Ho 15th. On live timing, Nicholas D'Orlando and Maxwell Jameson not coming across the line. I'm having a thought that potentially with the short order from qualifying here into the race, they may not have been able to get those cars repaired. I know Jameson, he brought it. Those are the 2 drivers, D'Orlando and Jameson. Oh, there's a driver off there. Driver off the outside. Bring it back on cleanly. And he does. Trying to figure out which driver that might have been. Hard to pick up the colors there and the numbers coming out of the corner of that one. We did have a driver go 4 wheels off, but able to get back on cleanly. But indeed, Nicholas D'Orlando and Maxwell Jameson, the drivers that brought out the red flags after contact with the wall, both those drivers. First D'Orlando, and then what would have been a one-lap dash. Maxwell Jameson just looping it around on the exit of 1, tagging the wall. And so the damage very likely still repairing to get those cars back out for race number 2 today, but potentially not able to get back out here for the opening race of the weekend. 12 laps the scheduled run here, 60-minute time window. So if we do have an incident on the racetrack, we'll go red if we can't get the car just pulled out. If it's any kind of an issue, we'll go red. Otherwise, we'll throw that yellow flag and bunch the field back up behind the safety car and get things going. But lots of time in the time window to make sure we get as many race laps as possible. And that really is the focus of this year's USF Juniors program. We want these drivers to have green flag racing laps as much as possible. All about getting them developed to move into USF 2000. Matt Clark leading by 2.8 seconds on the opening circuit, and I would bet that the spotter and the crew chief saying to him, you can back it down. You got almost 3 seconds right now. You don't need to overcook it. Take care of the tires, because that is one of the things a little different than the road to Indy. These, of course, focused on driver development, but also focused on getting keeping an affordable budget for these drivers. So there's not a lot of tires to be used. 2 sets of tires able to be used, fresh sets of Cooper tires from qualifying through all 3 races this weekend. So drivers really have to take care of their tires. We'll see, maybe who might bolt a fresh set on tomorrow to try to go for the race win. Do you hold it off for race number 3 on Sunday? I would expect with the potential for rain on Sunday, you'll see guys bolt on the fresh set of tires for race 2 and then potentially think, hey, we may end up having the rains on for Sunday. That's Jeremy Fairburn there in the number 87 machine. He's in a pretty good fight here with Alessandro Di Tullio. Jeremy Fairburn, if you're a follower of what we see here in USF Juniors, the Road to Indy, or anything in the North American karting program, you'll know about the SuperKarts USA Super Nationals. Jeremy Fairburn, a former winner in the category, or at that big race in Las Vegas. Last year running in the Formula Ford Festival and putting together a program late here, actually probably in the last month and a bit, to run with Kiwi Crosslink, which is obviously a top program with this category of race cars. Great to have Kiwi Crosslink in the paddock with us here at this USF Juniors program, but that's a good battle right now. That is for 6th and 7th. And I'll give some props for Fairburn, because this track, as we talked about and I said in the intro, unbelievably challenging. The undulations, the elevation changes, the Armco very close to the barriers somewhere. It's almost like a street circuit to a certain extent in some of these corners. You have to respect this racetrack, and Jeremy kind of brought himself up to speed cleanly. There's a pass coming there into turn number 1. You see that fight down to the right side of the screen, down to the inside. That might have been Elliot Cox going by Earl Tucker. That's a possibility. Hard, of course, to pick up the drivers from the drone. Looks like Jeremy Fairburn and Alessandro Di Tullio slipping by Jake Bonilla as well. They turned their fastest laps last time by. So it's Clark, Corey, Castro, Johnson, and Fairburn, your top 5 right now. Di Tullio right there. Less than a second back to Bonilla, and then 3 seconds back to Alan Isambard, who is a second and a half ahead of Earl Tucker. Elliot Cox running in 10th, Titus Sherlock in 11th, Noah Ping 12th, Jacob Bolin 13th, Bianca Bustamante in 14th, and Ethan Ho back into the 15th spot. Not sure what happened to Ethan there. He has shown very good speed throughout the weekend. But you can see the beautiful racetrack here in Gravelle Mills, Missouri. You'll see the SRO series here later in the season as well. The Championship Enduro Series, Karting Series is planning an event, I believe, down in October. Right now it's USF Juniors. Pick up the number 14 of Sam Corey. That is P2. Corey having a great run right now. Tremendous battle here. Further back, Ethan Ho fell to the tail of the field, as we had said. I believe he might have been that driver who we saw spinning up in the chicane area. We saw that white car that went around. That was very likely Ethan Ho, and he's trying to work his way back forward. Sam Corey out of Chicago, Illinois for Velocity Racing Development. Redline Oil, Phil Wright, and Stilo Helmets, the sponsor for that young driver. Just 14 years of age. Sam Corey, very bright future. And what a great way to start this season, too, if he's able to work this thing into a podium. And we talked to a lot of these young drivers and said, hey, listen, this is an event where you come in, get the experience, try to run all 36 race laps, 12-lap main events, run all 36 race laps and do the best you can. Like, get to the end. This is one of those races where you want to just get the experience, get through cleanly, get all the laps done, and that's going to set you up to potentially make a run for the championship. Another shot at turn number 1. You can see the downhill turn 1. Hard to see how much of a downhill it is. Much easier when you're starting, because it's probably about a 6-story drop, I think, from the top of turn number 17, or coming out of 17 down into turn number 1 and 2, the gully between 1 and 2. Then you climb all the way back up, as you can see here. Quick little run to the left there through turn number 3. Then a 4-5 combination leads on to that big, long, sweeping back straightaway through the S's. There's that long run down the back chute, as I had mentioned. Through the chicane. This is that 7-8 combination. This is a big downhill drop, and then climbing all all the way back up to a blind right-hander. Drivers that I've talked to love this racetrack. They have to respect it. They know it, but they're loving the track so far. And not surprising, Matt Clark thinks it's the best thing. He's a guy that qualified on the pole by over a second, feeling really comfortable here. And totally, as I had said before, really taking full advantage of the experience he has at a track like this. This kind of a more of an old school layout. Spending so much time in his development years at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, a track that many know as Moseport Park a number of years ago. Got a good fight there as well. Coming back up the hill, we're watching that one. Rise over top. There's that scrap we just talked about coming through there. That's a couple of VRD guys, I think, going side by or nose to tail there. Although, yeah, that might be Jeremy Fairburn and DeTulio. And then a little bit further back to that next battle. Yeah, that's going to be Earl Tucker, Elliot Cox, Titus Sherlock, and Noah Ping, I believe, in that fight. 4 drivers, all within about 2.5 seconds there. Here's your leader, though, again, Matt Clark, getting it done nicely in the number 17. Vice champion last year in the USF4 program, also a winner at the Mid-Ohio event of the FRP Formula 2000 Championship. Number of different events for Matt Clark as he continues to try to dial in a career here. 17 years old. Toronto, Ontario, Canada is what they say. Actually lives in Campbellville, which is just outside of Toronto. Matt Clark, a driver, of course, focused, like so many, on trying to become a pro driver in the NTT IndyCar Series, but also has designs on potentially being on the engineering side as well. But with the talent that he has been showing over the last couple of years, you have to believe that there is going to be a spotlight on this young Canadian driver who kind of a protege with James Hinchcliffe as well. Came up through the karting ranks. Won a bunch of top-level events with SuperKarts USA and events in Canada as well. But we have seen him really show well here in the open wheel program. 6.6 seconds the lead last time by for Matt Clark. A little shot of the media center there at Ozarks International Raceway. A lot of great promise of this particular racetrack. Again, very new. A lot of last little bits being kind of put together here over the last couple of weeks to get things dialed in. Clark, Corey, Johnson, Castro, and Fairburn, your current top 5. Matt Clark, 17 years of age. I had mentioned Sam Corey already, 14. And how about the driver who's worked his way up into 3rd right now, Nikita Johnson, for Velocity Racing Development, just 13 years of age. So in 2nd and 3rd for VRD, Dan Mitchell's operation. It's the 14-year-old and the 13-year-old Corey and Johnson running 2nd and 3rd. They are 6.6 seconds behind Matt Clark, who's got things dialed here right now. But another battle right there coming up over the top of that hill. Trying to figure out who that might be. I think that's probably going to be Tucker, Ping, and Sherlock. They're on top of each other right now as well. Alessandro DeTulio has not left Jeremy Fairburn either. Being told there's a car off the racetrack right there. Car was off track. We actually just scanned right by it. Driver's coming back at, I believe, at turn number 4 and 5. So there's a driver off the racetrack right now here at this position. I'm trying to figure out who that was that went off. They come back around, whether or not we're going to go to the full course yellow. As I mentioned before, we are now at 5 laps into a 12-lapper. There's an hour window to get all our laps in. That driver was just off the racetrack, though. I don't see when they kind of scan by any contact there. We're going to keep coming across to try to pick that up. Here's a 3-driver battle again, coming down the hill out of turn number, I believe, 4 and 5. Yeah, we got some pretty good fights here right now, as I said. Fairburn and DeTulio separated by 0.4 of a second. Then you go further back, and it's literally Elliot Cox, Earl Tucker, Noah Ping, and Titus Sherlock, all within a couple of seconds of each other, nose to tail. So again, some great racing on track here right now, just at the halfway point of this race. 6 laps down, 12 to go. Challenge for these young drivers as well. This is a long race. If we go green to checker, it's essentially going to be almost 30 minutes of green to get it all said and done, all 12 laps. 60-minute time window for, I believe, today's race and the first race of the 2 races today and tomorrow's, a 45-minute window this afternoon. Again, we did some stuff to kind of to fill up the schedule here today with the focus on trying to move that one race from Sunday morning where there's, we were expecting some rain here. It could be a wet racetrack. And again, doing the best we can to have a safe track for these drivers. It's a track that's untested in the wet. I think that's one of the key things. If we were at a Mid-Ohio or a Barber, a track that we know in terms of how it kind of sets up, how it drives in the wet, more of a different story. This is a brand new racetrack, and it's never been driven in the wet. So it could be our drivers or the Porsche Sprint Challenge drivers who are here as well on this USAC racing weekend. They could be testing it. They could be the first drivers out there to give it a feel. Oh, here's a good fight here as well. Look at this. This is the 2 DC Autosport team drivers. That's Earl Tucker and Ethan Ho. Remember, the Ho went around. So they're battling each other right now. They're 12th and 13th. Ho with that spin on the opening circuit. He is now all over the gearbox. There's the 14 of Sam Corey, and then that's how close Nikita Johnson is. He's only 1.1 seconds back. Nikita Johnson looking to try to fight his way up into second. Last time by, both drivers turning 2:23.5s. Clark about 0.4 of a second quicker with a 2:22.192. And maybe more importantly right now, fast lap of the race for Matt Clark. The bonus points there, 2:22.580. Quick look over at qualifying as well to see if anybody going quicker. So for race number 2, you're taking your second fastest qualifying lap or your fastest lap from race number 1. You're able to use that if you want. So that's something to take into consideration if anybody's putting down a good lap here right now. I want to say that Bianca Bustamante has tiled things. Yeah, she's gone 4 seconds quicker. She had a little bit of trouble there in qualifying. She's got herself up at least 1 spot at this point here, trying to find some more speed. Bustamante running in that 15th position. She's had some trouble throughout the weekend. Didn't get a chance to get onto the racetrack in the opening the opening session yesterday of the test. Then only got a couple laps in session 2, and then actually had a spin in session 3. Flat spotted the tires, and with the rule we have in terms of carryover tires, she didn't have really an adequate set to go on track. So for Bianca Bustamante, this really will be her first full session. So she's cranking the laps out right now, 7 laps down. Not surprisingly, goes quicker again at 2:27.233. So every lap a new journey for Bianca Bustamante, the young lady out of the Philippines. So we're thrilled to have as part of the USF Juniors program this year. She'll run 4 events. Will not be able to run Road America or the Challenge of the Americas race in Austin, Texas, as she's also running in the W Series. So, again, great to have Bianca in the paddock, a quality young lady. We had a chance to interview her later on. You'll see those, of course, throughout the weekend on social media and through our coverage here as well. But Bianca, I would expect every lap's going to be a quick lap. Good side-by-side battle coming up the hill there as well. I believe that was one of the D-Force drivers. That might have been Jake Bonilla and Alan Isambard going at. They were only a second apart, coming by for 7th and 8th. Here comes that battle for second spot, heating up again. You can see Nikita Johnson in that number 7, closing up on his teammate Sam Corey. That could be a fight that we're going to see before this is all said and done. Nikita Johnson of Gulfport, Florida, just 13 years of age. Allen Exploration and Walker's the sponsor on that deal. The Academy Winter Series champion this year. Of course, the Academy program down in Sebring and Homestead. Giving these drivers a chance to do a lot of testing in the offseason, but also doing some wheel-to-wheel racing. And Nikita, just 13 years of age, able to win the championship there. His 14-year-old teammate. That's who he's battling with right now for P2. But 8.1 seconds up the road, Matt Clark, the Canadian. For D-Force Racing, Valkyrie AI, the sponsor on the side of that machine. Number of great drivers, as we know, have come out of Canada in recent years. James Hinchcliffe, of course, being one of them. Robbie Wickens being another. Matt Clark started karting at the exact same kart club as Robbie Wickens, the Waterloo Regional Kart Club, my home club as well. And yeah, it's great to see what he's been able to do. And again, we watch all these Canadian drivers, whether it's in open wheel racing or sports car racing. There's just so many great racetracks north of the border that really challenge drivers, like Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, like La Circuit Mont Tremblant, very tough racetracks. And again, this is, I think, is what's helped pressure and develop young Matt Clark, who is showing so well right now, trying to get the win to start off the season here of USF Juniors. One thing we didn't mention, actually, at the very top of the broadcast with Danny Anderson, is there's over $200,000 worth of scholarship up for grabs for the championship, in keeping with what the Road to Indy is all about, the driver development, where the champion wins the scholarship to move to the next level. Over $200,000 up for grabs for the champion this year. And there's a little mistake there by Sam Corey. Dropped the wheel coming out. You can see that Nikita Johnson closed right back up on him. So Nikita Johnson looking to get aggressive, trying to find a way by. Last time by, not surprising, another fast lap for Bianca Bustamante. She goes quicker again at 126.741. Like, she's quick that last lap, quicker than Isambard, quicker than Ping, than Sherlock. She is dialing things in. Bianca Bustamante is a young driver worth watching. This is the battle for P2, though. And yeah, Nikita Johnson is by. Nikita has worked his way in to second spot. Johnson goes to P2. Corey back into the third position. Andre Castro 4.2 seconds back, but not quite as quick as those drivers up front. So don't see him challenging for a podium position. Look at this side-by-side racing back up the hill. Or over the, this is turn one. Or coming into turn one, final couple of corner by the pit, the pit lane of this racetrack. That's the crest coming up out of 17. Here's that downhill run all the way back down the hill into turn number one. Corey and Johnson not done. They're still fighting it out. Keeping an eye on Bianca Bustamante, who's doing such a tremendous job here now. Ethan Ho able to slide by Earl Tucker a lap ago, a couple of tenths of a second quicker. He's 12 seconds or 11 seconds behind Titus Sherlock. Quicker than Titus, but just going to run out of laps. 9 laps down. I believe 3 more laps to go, but we'll be a 12-lapper here. Opening event of a triple header for USF Juniors. Clark's lead, 12.1 seconds, but Johnson and Corey, that's the battle. That's the fight for second and third. Tremendous scrap. Other battles on the racetrack, Alan Isambard sliding by Jake Bonilla, but they're essentially nose to tail here as well. I think that might have been the fight we saw with the D-Force driver a couple laps ago. There's 2 fights right there. Drivers nose to tail, a couple of duos coming up over the hill. Fairburn up there on Castro. Yeah, that's second, third, fourth, and fifth, I think. That's Johnson and Corey. Then just a little bit of a gap back to Andre Castro and Jeremy Fairburn. What a run for Fairburn, for a driver who just didn't feel like he had a good grip on the racetrack earlier. Here they are coming out of turn number 3, 4, and 5 again. I believe that's your leader. There's Matt Clark. Indeed, he's working his way up here. That's the leader. The next group, though, we have ourselves a scrap of drivers coming through that corner. And here they come. This is second, third, fourth, and fifth, which is a couple laps to go. Nikita Johnson runs in second in the number 7. Third is Sam Corey in the 14. Andre Castro for International Motorsports in the 23. And Kiwi Crosslink driver Jeremy Fairburn now in the 5th spot. There's Castro coming through. No, actually, that was Isambard. That's Isambard in the other International Motorsports machine, number 53, right ahead of Jake Bonilla. Watching that battle again, come back up over the hill. DeTulio not that far back, just 3.2 seconds back for Alessandro DeTulio as well, as he's in the 6th position. Lap starting to wind down here. Again, Jeremy Fairburn running that number 87 machine for Kiwi Crosslink, just 18 years of age, birthday last week rather, out of Wellington, Florida, driving the City Moves, Ayrton Lighting, GearSource.com, Ligier. And we have a yellow flag. Looking at live timing, I think we have a yellow. Yeah, you can see the yellow flag flying. Marshall staying right side of the screen. There is a yellow flag, full course yellow, which may end this one because there's only a couple laps to go. But Matt Clark's 14.4 second lead will now completely disappear. But you remember they're going to come back around here, I believe, to put lap number 11 in the books. So not able to pick up yet where the incident was that has brought out this full course yellow. And to be honest, it's not really going to change much of the results in terms of the driver who will finish P1. May have changed what could have been a battle for second, third, fourth, and fifth. But indeed, full course yellow. Shot here again of the front straightaway, the curving left-hand front straight out of the hairpin turn 17. See if we can't pick up potentially where the issue was on the racetrack. Don't see anything at this point. So here's the top 10 when the yellow flag came out. Matt Clark P1, Nikita Johnson in second, Sam Corey in third, Andre Castro in fourth spot. Jeremy Fairburn is running fifth. Alessandro Tuttulio in sixth, Alan Isambard seventh, Jake Bonilla in eighth, ninth Elliott Cox, and 10th is Noah Ping. There's the 31 rolling through there. Titus Sherlock, the Lucas Oil Formula Car Series winter champion. Titus has been strong throughout this weekend. Been getting quicker and quicker. 11th currently in the order. Definitely not indicative of the pace we've seen out of Titus. He and Fairburn are going to be a good duo, I believe, this season. To potentially battle for race wins. So I don't know whether or not race director Joel Miller is going to be able to get us back to green, even get one lap, a green-white checker kind of a thing, or even just the strictly green checker, get one flying lap. Full course yellow still being shown around the racetrack. Bianca Bustamante gets down to a 226.5. Yeah, it's going to move her up maybe a spot. Yeah, she'll go to 16th, I believe, with that pace. But man, I'm liking what she was able to do during that session. Has not got any track time throughout this weekend. Really limited running. Probably less than 10 laps, I'm going to say, she's been able to put down, having not been able to qualify. She ran the qualifying session, but ran, I think, 6 or 7 laps in qualifying. So every session's a good one. We're actually rolling the ambulance at this point here. You can see as well, a driver obviously off the racetrack. We haven't seen where the incident is as of yet. Pace car is out. You can see them leading the field across here. I believe this will put lap number 11 in the books. So we got 10 hot ones. Clark, Johnson, Corey, Castro, and Fairburn top 5. Tuttulio 6th, Isambard 7th, Bonilla 8th, 9th is Cox, and 10th is Ping, and that will round out the top 10 as I believe they've taken the white flag. So this is essentially final lap on the racetrack. Matt Clark, who had dominated the action, got out to a pretty good early lead to capitalize on that pole position, turning fast lap of the race, a 222.580, but let's just throw this out there. He was over a second quicker than Sam Corey in qualifying. And this time, though, on fast time in the race, 22.5. Johnson at 22.7. So Nikita Johnson dialed things up, got there within 0.2 of a second. Now, let's be real. Mac was out front by himself. Clark probably didn't have to push as hard to maybe grab that lap, but did have the fast lap. Got a bonus point for that. Looks like the driver not coming back around with Jacob Boland. So the IGY6 Motorsports driver, Jacob Boland, was running, I believe, in the 15th spot. Has an issue. He goes off track, and we'll have to get that cleaned up with Jacob. Nonetheless, podium presentations will be underway here before we're all said and done. We've got the camera down there to be able to provide the presentation for you there. Matt Clark, though, with the win. He'll come around here under yellow and get the victory. It'll be a much smaller margin on the official timesheets, but it was over 12 seconds at one point. D-Force Racing starting the season off with a big win as well. Velocity Racing Development in second and third. International Motorsports in fourth spot with Andre Castro, and Crosslink Kiwi Motorsports so rounding out the top 5. So 4 different teams in the top 5. That's going to show you the parity that we have in this program this year. This is going to be a ton of fun to watch over the 16 races, because I'll tell you this, it seems to me like all these teams have the ability to win. You're going to be able to see Clark, Johnson, any of the Velocity drivers, of course, Castro and Isambard, so both international motorsports drivers in the top 7. But Velocity ends up with all 4 of their drivers in the top 10. D-Force with a couple drivers in the top 10 as well. Maxwell Jameson had some issues in qualifying, as I said, not able to get back out there as they repair the damage. I'm sure we'll see both Nicholas D'Orlando and Maxwell Jameson on track for round number 2 this afternoon at 4:15. But otherwise, this is that cool-down lap final circuit that you don't want to do if you're sitting second or third. You would like to have had the chance to challenge. Even if you're a guy like Sam Corey, ran second for half the race. You know what? He was right there. He didn't let Nikita get away at all, right on the gearbox, and I think he would have liked to have had that last lap opportunity to throw a haymaker in there to see if he can't grab second. But hey, listen, bottom line for all 3 of these drivers, that's the way you get the season off and underway. Clark, Johnson, and Corey will be on the podium, taking some hardware back to the trailer. And then we'll press the reset button, do it all again. 4:15 Central Time scheduled our start for round number 2 of this year's USF Juniors program. Matt Clark's been great throughout the entire weekend. Again, this was an interesting weekend. One of the things about Ozarks International Raceway, and you talk about the young drivers here in USF Juniors who spend a lot of time on the sim, whether iRacing, whatever it may be, and getting an opportunity to drive a racetrack and really get a feel for it. They're going to be able to do it for Barber, for VIR, for COTA, for Road America. The other tracks we have on the circuit, the Mid-Ohio, there's no sim for Ozarks International Raceway. It's that new that there's no opportunity for these young drivers to get a feel for the track. They watched a bunch of video. Everybody watched the video, but it had to be trackside. And there's the checkered flag. Tom Hansen will throw it out there, and indeed, Matt Clark, the Canadian for D-Force Racing, scoring the victory as he will win over Nikita Johnson officially now. Nikita Johnson in second, Sam Corey in third, Andre Castro fourth, Jeremy Fairburn in fifth spot, Alessandro DiTullio in sixth, Alan Isambard in seventh, Jake Bonilla in eighth, Elliot Cox in ninth, Noah Ping rounding out the top 10. Titus Sherlock finishes 11th. Ethan Ho, after that opening lap spin, able to work his way back up into 12th. Earl Tucker in 13th. Bianca Bustamante turning good lap times right in there with the drivers further up the grid. She ends up in 14th. Jacob Boland, who brought out the red flag at the end, in 15th. And, of course, Nicholas D'Orlando and Maxwell Jameson, as I said. Incidents in the qualifying session negating their opportunity to get out on the racetrack as their teams continue to repair the damage to their Ligier race cars. So there you go, folks. We wrapped up the first of 3 races here on the weekend. All that's left to cap the opening round of this year's USF Juniors is the podium presentation. Those drivers, when they work their way back around, top 3 will get sent over to the victory lane area, and we'll have interviews with all 3 of these drivers live here on Road to Indy TV. So, ladies and gentlemen, getting things fired up here right now in victory lane for the celebrations. Drivers getting weighed out. And we'll get a chance to talk to all of our drivers who were able to get themselves onto the podium here today. Opening race of 2 today, of course, 3 on the weekend. Great racing up front for these drivers, and of course a battle for second midway through. Leader checking out, though, nicely. Setting the pace to start the season off. Wind definitely whistling here trackside. I'm sure that played a little bit of a role into the drivers out there with the crosswind throughout this racetrack. But again, getting things dialed in. Let's bring our drivers over here when we can. So let's get started and bring in the driver who ends up finishing in 3rd spot to kick off his championship battle here in USF Juniors from VRD. 3rd spot, Sam Corey. Let's have a chat here real quick. Sam, you know, great way to start the season, right? Stay out of trouble. You're on the podium overall. What were your thoughts on the race?
Yeah, it was a great race. Kept the nose clean the whole time. Nikita drove a great race there, getting us at the end. Wish we could have gone back green, but it is what it is. But, yeah, it was a great race.
Another one this afternoon. Any changes you think you'll make to the car or yourself, or just try to do what you just did?
Car's really good. I think just make a few improvements on my driving and stay consistent. We'll be good.
Well done. Let's bring Danny Anderson in with your trophy. Sam, stay right here. You got to stay right here. This is our podium here as well, so we'll get you with your 3rd place trophy. First trophy delivered here in USF Juniors. Sam Corey, P3, finishing in 2nd spot. What a great run, folks. Nikita Johnson, 2nd spot. Nikita, come on over here. Passing for 2nd, obviously, is something you have to be comfortable doing, but especially when it's your teammate. A good pass. Can you talk a little bit about reeling him in and making that move?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was just really consistent. Once I got up to him, I was just making sure that I wasn't hitting him in the braking zones, and I was just trying to time the perfect moment for the draft and to go past him down there. And I think it was really great racing him, and we both drove clean, and it was just really fun.
Like I asked Sam, you get to do it again tomorrow, this afternoon. Any changes you can make to the car, to yourself? Where do you see yourself setting up for race 2?
I think it's just mainly driver. I think I can work on a couple corners, and then we should be right there.
Congratulations, man. Well done. Dan, come on in with that trophy. Oh, Gustavo Yakiman, our series manager, Gustavo Yakiman, going to come in here and present that trophy to Nikita Johnson. I'm sure we'll see more of those get developed. But again, let's set the stage, because there's always going to be a trivia question. Who won the first ever USF Juniors race? And the answer, of course, folks, will be Matt Clark, the winner today for D-Force Racing. Matt, congratulations, man. Obviously different approaches than these 2 guys. You knew you had the speed in qualifying. You had to get that opening lap done. What was it like on cold tires?
It was tricky, but we managed to open up a good gap on the first lap, and after that, it was all about tire conservation and make sure we brought the car home with 4 wheels. But I'd like to thank D-Force Racing for the mega fast car and for putting this 2022 program together.
How has the track been overall for you? Obviously, I mentioned a lot about Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. You've had a chance to race a track with undulations like this.
I mean, coming from CTMP to here, it's like CTMP on steroids. So this place has been amazing so far, and I really enjoy driving the track.
Can you get any better? I asked these guys the same question. Can you make that thing any faster?
Yeah, for sure. There's always room to improve, and I'm working on myself for race 2.
Hey, congratulations. Thank you. Let's bring Dan back in here with the first place trophy for USF Juniors. Matt Clark kicking off the season well in the Valkyrie AI. D-Force Racing Machine, the Canadian driver, going to get that P1 position. We have ourselves a battle for the championship. A couple of teams on here, both D-Force Racing and Velocity Racing Development on the podium. Again, great to get this season underway of USF Juniors competition. Another race this afternoon at 4:15, of course, live here on Road D&D TV or on the USF Juniors app. And we'll do it again to cap things off with round number 3 tomorrow, 11:45 Central, scheduled start time for the final round of the triple header. Awesome trophies this year. Something a little bit different. I love it. Ozarks International Raceway have been a fantastic host here this weekend. And that was a great race, man. Almost got to the very end cleanly there. Just that one issue at the very end of the race. Otherwise, a couple of small ones throughout the event, but we kept her green. You guys got more racing to do. Yeah, good conversation. Spray that champagne, boys. Celebrate the opening round of the USF Juniors program. Once again, Matt Clark with the win. Nikita Johnson second. Sam Corey in third. Those of you joining us live here on USF Juniors, on the app, on any one of the streaming platforms, we thank you so much for being part of it. Come on back and join us. 4:15 this afternoon, round number 2 here from Ozarks International Raceway.